The Iran-Iraq War, the 8-year conflict that shook the Middle East. Hello, friends. Today, we're diving into one of the most devastating wars of the 20th century. The Iran-Iraq War, also known as the First Gulf War. Lasting 8 years from 1980 to 1988, this war didn't just impact two countries. It reshaped the Middle East and even global balances. With approximately 1 million lives lost, over 2 million people injured, and $150 billion in damages, what caused this war? How did it unfold? And what legacy did it leave behind? Let's jump into this dramatic story. The roots of the war. Why did it start? It all began on September 22, 1980, when Iraq launched a sudden invasion of Iran. But the seeds of this war were sown long before, rooted in historical rivalries between the two nations. As powerful neighbors in the Middle East, Iraq and Iran had long grappled with border disputes, ethnic tensions, and sectarian differences. One of the biggest issues was the Shatt al-Arab waterway, formed by the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This strategic waterway was vital for both oil exports and regional dominance. The 1975 Algiers Agreement seemed to resolve this issue, but the 1979 Iranian Islamic Revolution changed everything. When Iran's Shah was overthrown and Ayatollah Khomeini established a Shiite theocratic regime, Iraq's Ba'athist leadership, led by Saddam Hussein, went on high alert. Saddam feared Iran's revolutionary ideology would incite Iraq's Shiite majority. Moreover, he sought to break Iran's dominance in the Persian Gulf and seize the oil-rich Khuzestan region. Iran, on the other hand, viewed Iraq's aggressive stance and the support it received from Sunni Arab states as a threat. The two leaders, Saddam and Khomeini, were locked in what felt like a personal vendetta. The war begins. Iraq's assault. On September 22, 1980, Iraq attacked Iran without formal warning. Iraqi air forces bombed Tehran and other Iranian airfields, targeting oil facilities. Saddam, capitalizing on Iran's post-revolution chaos, planned for a swift victory. The early months favored Iraq. Cities like Abadan and Karamshar in Khuzestan were occupied, but Iran recovered faster than expected. Under Khomeini's leadership, the Iranian people launched what they called the Sacred Defense. By June 1982, Iran had reclaimed nearly all its lost territories and even launched counteroffensives into Iraqi soil. War of attrition, a bloody stalemate. What was meant to be a quick war turned into one of history's longest wars of attrition. Battlefronts spread across swamps, deserts, and mountains. Both sides launched human wave attacks with young soldiers and even child volunteers fighting on the front lines. Iran employed human wave tactics, sending massive groups of fighters to overwhelm Iraqi defenses. Iraq, in turn, used chemical weapons to instill fear. The 1988 Halabja attack, where chemical weapons killed thousands of Kurdish civilians, shocked the world. The economic war was just as brutal. Both nations targeted each other's oil facilities and ships. Iran relied on Persian Gulf oil exports, while Iraq used pipelines. Iraq's attacks on Iranian tankers and Iran's retaliatory strikes on Iraqi facilities disrupted global oil trade. This drew superpowers like the US into the conflict. The US provided Iraq with intelligence and weapons, but intriguingly, the Iran-Contra scandal revealed it was also secretly selling arms to Iran. Yes, in this war, everyone's hands were dirty. International players and dirty games. The Iran-Iraq War wasn't just a clash between neighbors. It was a reflection of the Cold War. The US and Western nations, fearing the spread of Iran's Shiite revolution, backed Iraq. The Soviet Union sold weapons to both sides. Arab states, particularly Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, loaned Saddam billions of dollars. Ironically, Israel provided covert arms to Iran, seeing Iraq as a greater threat. Turkey tried to remain neutral, maintaining ties with both nations, but it couldn't escape the war's economic and security fallout. One of the war's most controversial moments was the 1987 Iran-Contra scandal. It was revealed that the US sold arms to Iran and funneled the profits to Nicaraguan rebels. This scandal rocked the Reagan administration and showed how the war had become a complex global chessboard. The war's end, a disaster without a victor. By 1988, both countries were exhausted. Economies had collapsed, cities lay in ruins, and millions were displaced. The United Nations Resolution 598, passed on July 20th, 1987, called for a ceasefire, but Iran and Iraq only accepted it a year later, in July 1988. On August 20th, 1988, the ceasefire officially took effect. Borders reverted to the 1975 Algiers Agreement. In other words, 8 years of bloodshed brought no tangible gains for either side. Lasting scars in the Middle East, the Iran-Iraq War changed the Middle East's fate. Unable to repay its war debts, Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, triggering the First Gulf War, 1991. Iran, learning from its isolation during the war, developed a strategy to spread Shiite influence from Lebanon to Yemen. The roots of today's sectarian tensions and instability in the Middle East can be traced back to this war. The war was a human tragedy. Chemical weapons, civilian targeting, and child soldiers defined its brutality. The Halabja massacre became a symbol of this horror. Economic losses set both nations back decades. For Turkey, the war brought economic losses and security challenges, including the rise of separatist groups like the PKK. The Iran-Iraq War is a stark lesson in how destructive ambition, ideology, and power struggles can be. Neither Saddam's dreams nor Khomeini's revolution exports came to fruition. What remained were millions of broken lives and a ravaged region. So, what do you think is the biggest lesson from this war? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.